For the final part of my presentation, we will discuss the National Medical Support Notice. The National Medical Support Notice is the official form that child support agencies send to employers to ensure that children receive health care coverage when it is available and required as part of a child support order. The National Medical Support Notice is divided into two parts, Part A and Part B. Part A is the notice to withhold for health care coverage and includes the employer response and instructions. Part B is a medical support notice to the plan administrator and includes the plan administrator response and instructions. The National Medical Support Notice is designed to simplify the work of employers and plan administrators by providing uniform documents to request health care coverage. When you receive the National Medical Support Notice, review the information on the notice, complete the employer response, forward Part B to the plan administrator if necessary, withhold premiums as appropriate, determine the limitations on withholding, and consider the priority of withholding. Let's go through the employer response and the options for completing the form for medical coverage. First, you must determine if any of the 4 criteria on the employer response apply to you or this employee that prevent you from honoring the notice. The employee named in the notice has never been employed by you. You do not offer your employees the option of purchasing dependent or family health care coverage as a benefit of their employment. The employee is among a class of employees, for example, part-time or non-union employees that are not eligible for family health coverage, or the employee is no longer employed, and then you would complete the requested information. If any of these criteria apply, check the appropriate box and return the form to the issuing agency. You must determine whether the amount of support plus the deduction for healthcare premiums exceeds the maximum deduction allowed under the CCPA. Remember, as previously discussed, New York State's withholding limitations are 50 to 55%, depending on whether the employee owes more than 12 weeks of child support arrears. As discussed in the calculator, if the amount to withhold for health care insurance is 0, the amount would exceed the maximum deduction allowed. You would check box 5 and return the form to the issuing agency. Remember, the priority of withholding is current child support, then health care insurance premiums, then child support arrears. If the enrollment cannot be completed until after a waiting period or other requirement, check and complete box 6 and send Part B to the plan administrator. The plan administrator must process the enrollment at the end of that period. Now, if you, the employer, provide health care benefits to the employee, forward Part B, plan administrator response to the health care administrator of your organization to enroll the children. If the employee has already enrolled the children in health care coverage, the employer must forward Part B to the plan administrator for completion and submittal to the issuing agency. If the employee's health care benefits are administered through another organization, including a labor union, forward Part B of the notice to the labor union or other organization acting as the plan administrator for completion. If you forward Part B to the plan administrator, check and complete box 7 and return the employer response to the issuing agency. You would then complete the contact for questions sections. Are there any questions on Part A of the National Medical Support Notice? Part B of the National Medical Support Notice has been forwarded from the employer to you as the plan administrator of a group health plan maintained by the employer and in which the employee is enrolled or is eligible for enrollment. If the plan requires that the employee be enrolled in order for the children to be enrolled and the employee is not currently enrolled, you must enroll both the employee and the children regardless of whether the employee has applied for enrollment in the plan. All enrollments are to be made without regard to open season restrictions. As the plan administrator, you would enroll the child in the health plan and notify the employer of the premium cost, notify the employee and the custodial parent of the child's enrollment, and notify the child support agency of the child's enrollment. As the plan administrator, you must, within 40 business days of the date of the notice, or sooner if reasonable, complete Part B, the plan administrator response, and send it to the issuing agency. You would also determine if the notice is a qualified medical child support order. If so, complete response 2 or 3, and if applicable, response 4. You would check response 2 if the employee and the alternate recipients, such as the children, are to be enrolled in the following family coverage. The child is already enrolled in the plan as dependent. There is only one type of coverage provided under the plan, and the children are included as dependents. The employee is enrolled in an option that is providing dependent coverage, and the children will be enrolled in the same option. Or the employee is enrolled in an option that permits dependent coverage that has not been elected, and dependent coverage will then be provided. If you checked response 2, you must notify the employee and custodial parent that the coverage of the children is or will become available, provide the coverage effective date, and furnish the custodial parent with a description of the coverage available, along with a summary plan and any forms, documents, or information necessary to effectuate such coverage, as well as information necessary to submit claims for benefits. Notify the employer of the health care coverage, and the employer will determine if the coverage is permissible under the state and federal withholding limitations. If you checked response 3 that there is more than one option available under the plan and the employee is not enrolled, provide the issuing agency copies of applicable summary plan descriptions or other documents that describe available coverage, including the additional employee contribution necessary to obtain coverage for the child under each option and whether there is a limited service area for any option. If the plan has a default option, you are to enroll the child in the default option if you have not received an election from the issuing agency within 20 business days of the date you return the response. If the plan does not have a default option, you're to enroll the child in the option selected by the issuing agency. If the employee is subject to a waiting period that expires more than 90 days from the date of receipt of the notice, or has not completed a waiting period whose duration is determined by a measure other than the passage of time, for example, the completion of a certain number of hours work, complete response 4 and return to the employer and the issuing agency, and notify the employee and custodial parent, and upon satisfaction of the period or requirement, complete enrollment under response 2 or 3. If within 40 business days of the date of the notice or sooner if reasonable, you determine that the notice does not constitute a qualified medical child support order, you must complete response 5 and send it to the issuing agency and inform the employee, custodial parent, and children of the specific reasons for your determination. And then at the bottom of the plan administrator response, fill in the name, title, phone number, date, and address of the plan administrator. If you have questions or think of a question later, here's contact information. You can call the employer helpline. There's information on the child support website, or you can email me directly. Thank you.